Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm so glad you're circling up with us today because you're in for a truly empowering conversation. I'm Linda Joy, your host, Mindset Elevation Coach, Sacred Visibility Catalyst, and publisher of the beloved Aspire magazine, which is celebrating its 19th year of inspiring women to live deeper, more authentic lives. With me today is an old friend. She is been an author in my books, as well as a frequent, thankfully, contributor to Aspire magazine, Sharon Seaberg. Sharon's a neuro-transformational coach, feminine power facilitator, and the visionary founder of the Soul Alignment formula. She empathically fuses cutting-edge neuroscience with intuitive coaching to support successful women to unlock their full potential and live a life of authenticity and freedom. You can learn more about her transformational services and download her free gifts at SharonSeaberg.com. Welcome, my friend.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited for
Well,
the conversation.
I am too, because I love your writing. I love your work that you're doing with women. And a lot of it's about emotional sovereignty, the soul alignment path and journey. To me, it's really about guiding women to remember the truth of who they are and living from the inside out. So I know you work with many highly sensitive and successful women who kind of feel like something's missing, even if from the outside looking in, they've got it all or done everything right. So I'm really curious because I witnessed that too, Sharon. So you're spot on with that. What's really going on underneath all that?
Mm. Yeah, the biggest thing that's going on is they're not really listening to their inner self, what they really want, what their biggest desire is. They're doing all the things that they think that they should be doing, that we've been conditioned to do. And that's causing a lot of internal angst. It takes a whole lot of energy to keep up those various masks and things like that we wear, instead of really tuning in to what is it that I truly desire, what is on my soul to do in this lifetime, and focusing there and just letting that guide you every step of the way.
And I love this because a lot of the articles you've written over the years for Aspire is really all about helping highly sensitive women reconnect with their inner truth, which you just talked on, reclaim their purpose, and show up with authenticity. And for me, authenticity is key. And you just touched on it about wearing the masks. I remember going on my personal development journey 30 years ago going, oh my God, I didn't realize I had so many masks for different relationships, masks from my work. Do you see that a lot, that women almost forget who they truly are because of all the masks?
Yeah, definitely. We have so many, I guess it's all kind of caused by fear, right? Like we wear all these masks and we people please, or, we don't have, I use the word boundaries, but it's not really boundaries, because we are trying to make sure that we feel safe and secure, because we have all this history, not necessarily even in this lifetime, but this stuff stored in our DNA around um, around us not feeling safe. And so, like if we were kicked out of a tribe when we were, in the early, not even that long ago, like our grandparents or before our grandparents, it'd be hard to survive. So we relied on being the nurturer, being the rule follower. And so all that is like stored in our nervous system and how to react and how to behave. And really, if we can learn to trust ourselves and listen to our internal guidance, um, and when we begin to really trust ourselves, our nervous system calms down, and it becomes this like almost a flywheel, like we're beginning to trust ourselves, listen to ourselves, and then we trust ourselves a little bit more, and then more opens up for us. So it's really about tuning into our intuition and that. And you asked that question about the mask, and I think that that's really important. So we're wearing all these masks to protect ourselves, and really don't need protection, especially when you're living authentically. It's much more settling to show up fully present, who you are, not pretending to be anything different than who you are. Then you can relax and just allow and respond to what's in the moment, as opposed to being reactive and like, what do I need to be right now to get this result that I want? It's not that. It's what's here for me right now, and what am I creating? What am I creating from?
Some of what you shared too is about being authentic. And to me, and I know you use this word a lot in your work also, is about realigning, right? Every time you notice you're hiding behind a mask, it's about, oh, come back to the center of who we are. And it's funny because just about every guest I've had over the last 9 years, I always ask them a question, because I notice that their own personal journey actually led them to the work they're doing. So I'll ask you the same question, because you walked this path yourself. What's a pivotal moment that you realized you were out of alignment with your authentic self? And how did that experience shape what you do today?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Yeah, I was in corporate America, and I did. If you were to ask me, I did love my job, but I was definitely out of alignment with how I was being in that job. Um, and it showed up with like there were some physical symptoms, like um, because I had been ignoring it, right? So like I had like my rash, like I was itching, and I was like losing some of my words of what I wanted to say. Um, I felt anxiety, but I didn't necessarily knew at the time. I don't know if I would call it anxiety, but now looking back, I'm like, I had a lot of anxiety. Um, and so the pivotal moment was actually when I lost my job. And it was actually, they all say like, um, well, I'll just say I lost my job, and I felt all the emotions, but the overwhelming emotion I felt was relief. And that really, like, wow, that really clued me in that something was really off with how I was being, what I was up to, and that relief really kind of allowed me to do some soul searching and really reflect on what is it that I really want to create here? What am I doing? Why am I, what's going on with this? And so that led me down this beautiful path.
That because I think every woman listening can relate to having a pivotal moment, maybe not in their career, could be in their health or relationship, that kind of shifted how they navigated life, right? So
Yeah.
even though at the time that was like a cosmic 2x4, even though you felt relief, you must have brought up lots of emotions like, now what? What am I going to do?
Right.
And I love that you took that experience and said, I'm going to recognize the symptoms in my body. The fact that you had relief when you got let go or laid off, whoa, what a big sign that you were out of alignment and your energy, your essence was like, finally, we're free. That's how I took what you just shared. Did it feel that way to you too?
Yeah, of course, the mind comes in and it tells you all these things like, what's next? What are you going to do? Oh no, or the judgment comes in too, like, oh, they must have not valued you, or, all
Of
that's
course.
various ego driven things. But behind it, when I really tuned in, it was, there was relief there. There was like, hey, there's something else I'm meant to go do. And this is the opportunity to go do it.
Yeah, it was an opening. It was, here's what I noticed on my journey. The times that I ignored the signs and synchronicities, right? Like you with the rash. I mean, I've had stories like that many years ago when my body was showing me, but I kept pushing, pushing, pushing because of the shoulds and have tos. But the divine will come in and give us a cosmic 2x4. So energetically, it was like you were getting signs that you were not in alignment with that career, but you didn't leave on your own accord. So the universe lined things up to give you a little nudge towards the path you're supposed to be living.
Yeah.
That happens to all of us. I want to talk about that and more when we come back from our first break. And I want to dive a little deeper into that because I don't want any woman waiting for the cosmic 2x4. So we'll be back in a moment, my friends. I'm with Sharon Seaberg, Neuro-Transformational Coach, Feminine Power Facilitator, and the visionary founder of the Soul Alignment Formula. You can learn more at SharonSeaberg.com. We'll be right back.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. Om Times Radio. I-O-M-F-M.
Your truest, deepest desires are calling you. The question is, will you answer the call? Former high-tech Fortune 500 leader Sharon Seaberg knows how it feels to wear busyness as a badge of honor and to smother her dreams with the expectations of others. Walking away from her successful yet unfulfilling career, she chose to live a life connected to her intuitive wisdom and divine truth, and now lives a life of fulfillment, peace, and abundance. Today, Sharon is a neurotransformational coach, feminine power facilitator, and the visionary founder of the Soul Alignment Formula. She empathetically fuses cutting-edge neuroscience with intuitive coaching, supporting successful women to unlock their full potential so they can live a life of authenticity and freedom. Are you ready to excavate your deepest desires and bring them to life? Start by visiting SharonSeaberg.com.
Consistently attract soulmate clients, begin showing up on brand, monetizing on your calling. Welcome all spiritual coaches, leaders, healers, light workers, and practitioners to a show that turns you on in your business and amplifies your magnetism. I'm host, catalyst, and spiritual business coach Rosalind Fung, and I'm here to journey with you into the juicy and help you discover where the real gaps are. Ignite your mindset and soul with strategies and systems as each episode takes you to the sweet spot that activates your soulgasmic business by tuning in on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Mountain. Join me for your light language activation and let's magnetize and monetize.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. Om Times Radio. I-O-M-F-M.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and with me today is Sharon Seaberg. And we were just talking about sometimes we keep pushing through life and following the shoulds and have tos and ignoring all the signs and synchronicities that are kind of nudging us internally, sometimes physically, to really honor our soul, our essence. So we ended the last segment talking about that cosmic 2x4. It sounds like after that experience of being laid off and your decision to start going internally, that you took a step back from that career in life to do a personal spiritual journey. Is that how I heard it?
Definitely. It sent me on this path, and I had a good amount of severance. So I had a good, several many months to like really explore and give myself time to recover my nervous system. And yeah, so any listeners, like, anxiety is really the cost of you pretending, you wearing these masks. It's an internal conflict. So yeah, so I had a good amount of time, and that allowed me to heal my nervous system, get it back to being grounded, really the ability to tune back in to myself and really start to listen to my intuition and decide what I want to do.
And then were you already a neurotransformational coach prior while you were in corporate, or is that something along with the feminine power facilitation work that you do? Was that part of your own personal spiritual development journey?
It was part of my own journey. Yeah, so no, I was in marketing. I was in marketing for high tech before, and yeah, this path and I love to learn. So, and I wanted a way. And what excites me is like the unknown, right? That all those things that we know, but we can't necessarily see with our senses. Like that's what lights me up, was when we're really connected. But I also like the science of it, because I like to be able to describe it in ways that feel grounded and reachable, or you know what I mean?
That women can truly understand it and integrate it.
Exactly. So,
and I love that. So we've used the phrase alignment. So let's talk about that a little so our listeners understand. What does it mean to be out of alignment? And how can someone tell they've drifted away from their true self or soul path? Because everything I do is about aligning, right? So this conversation really touches me too.
Yeah, there's so much around alignment. Alignment, at this, simple terms, you can start with understanding what your values are, beginning to align there. Ultimately, it's about aligning with your soul, like really understanding what is your purpose. Everyone's purpose is to enjoy life and have joy, right? But build connections and love. But there's different ways that you wanted to experience that. So really getting in touch with those things and what truly lights you up, beginning to really listen to your intuition and understanding how intuition works within your body, within your spirit. That is alignment. Yeah, it's almost easier to talk about what it isn't sometimes, which is your emotions will tell you that either your perception or something is off. That's another one. Alignment is getting in line with the truth of what's happening, as opposed to what your mind is telling you. If there's something that's off, there's usually some fear in it, right? And so there's probably a different way to look at it. There's a different perspective that you can have about what's actually happening in this moment.
I love what you said. You brought up fear a couple of times, because to me, that's how I teach even my grandchildren. It's like when you feel constricted, less than, filled with doubt, anxious, then you are in the essence and energy of fear, shoulds, have tos, what ifs. And when you're in alignment with your truth, your essence, etc., and like I've taught them, listen to your body, because I might process my alignment different than them. But I always say, love always feels expansive, exciting, filled with possibility. Because don't you think, Sharon, when we can figure out how each of those core emotions feel in our own essence and body, then from that place we can make the choice to make new choices.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty amazing. There's like two different ways to kind of live your way, in this world, right? And one of them is that feeling of I need to protect myself, and nothing is happening, everything is happening to me. I have to figure everything out, and the world is chaotic. And that's like when you're focused on the external world, and when you can shift to realizing everything is happening for you. Everything is love. Everything is actually created out of love. There's a deeper meaning in everything. And begin to look for the love in each situation. In every moment, everything can shift for you. That's really living in alignment, when you're seeing with clarity, when you're creating out of love as opposed to fear. That's alignment, because whatever energy you create in is what you're creating.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
That's so big, and I teach a lot of my mindset clients and even my clients who are entrepreneurs. Like if you're working on a project, we'll say you're a career person or an entrepreneur, and you're working on a project and you're angry, frustrated, or you really need the sale from this thing that you're working on. That energy is imprinted into everything you write, your web copy, everything. So I tell people, make sure your energy and intention is clear and based on possibility and love, not those other energies, because that's what they feel first before they ever read a word that we write. And so I love that you brought that up, because it is all about our personal energy and intention. And you've known me for a long time, so I love conversations like this, right? Because I'm all about energetic alignment, spiritual alignment, because I've, like you, Sharon, lived the other way with anxiety, struggling, masks, shoulds, have tos. God, it was exhausting. And isn't this way so much more freeing to live in alignment with the truth of who we are?
yeah.
And not in the big thing and to then not need outside validation that the truth of who we are is or isn't enough. All that matters is we know it. So that's why I love the work you're doing with women. And I want to ask about something else too, because in your writing, you've written for us, is you talk a lot about emotional sovereignty. Let's talk about what that means to you and the work that you do with women.
Yeah. Emotions are so powerful. And, our society has been taught to fear emotions, even positive emotions, because we're afraid they'll get taken away, So don't be too joyful, don't be too sad, don't be too, all of it, right? But anything we do is because we want to feel a certain way. So emotions are kind of foundational for our life experience. And emotions are created by how we are interpreting what's happening. All these amazing things happen in our body. We feel a vibration, and then our mind interprets it. And if we're interpreting that out of fear, that's when we get this flood of, fear-based emotions. And if we're interpreting it through the eyes of love, that's when it feels more expansive. So I'll use the And these emotions are a mirror of each other. So I'll use this extreme example of hopelessness. So if we're feeling hopeless, and we have this vibration of hopelessness, we are, it's below, harder than depression, right? It's like hopelessness. But if you think about the opposite of it, is the mirror of it is surrender, is synchronicity. And so the positive aspect of it is, we were surrendered to, or, depending on we're surrendered to the universe, our higher self, God, whatever your belief system is, but you're surrendered to life and allowing life to flow through you, knowing everything's happening to you. So it's almost the same emotion or the same frequency, but a different chord of it. It's different, it feels different in our body because we're interpreting it different. So that's a lot to kind of think through, but
Yeah, but it was a great way to show the contrast, right? And that there always is the other side. We're going to take our next break, and we come back, we'll continue this conversation and so much more, my friends. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Times Radio. I.O.M.F.M.
We can all use a little more peace and joy in our lives. Don't you agree? Counselor, best-selling author, and self-nurturing expert Kelly Grimes of CultivatingPeaceAndJoy.com is passionate about empowering overwhelmed and exhausted women to live with more peace, joy, and meaning through the practice of self-nurturing. Through her experience working with individuals, speaking, providing workshops, and teaching professional and leadership development to forward-thinking organizations, Kelly knows that nurturing peace in the world begins from the inside out. That's why she created the free Cultivating Peace and Joy mobile app that brings you beautiful self-nurturing reminders, guided meditations, empowering practice tools, and daily prompts with an inspiring question to guide your daily self-nurturing practice. Download your free Cultivating Peace and Joy mobile app today at cultivatingpeaceandjoy.com.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour,
if you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind,
walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out, and for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Host your show on I.O.M.F.M., the radio network of Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Times. Hosting a show on I.O.M.F.M. immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Times Radio. I.O.M.F.M.
This is Linda Joy, your host, and with me today is Neuro-Transformational Coach and Feminine Power Facilitator Sharon Seaberg. And so you were just sharing with us about the power of emotions and how when we're in one emotion, if it's in the fear field, we can always look that there is an opposite, and that's in the love field. Like, that's how I took your words. And I thought that was beautiful, because just because we're processing something through our emotional state doesn't mean it's true too. That was a big thing for me. I thought every thought was truth, back in my day when I had anxiety and all that. And I'm like, no, it's just something that's coming to the surface, being processed through the lens that I was living with at the time, which was severe anxiety. So I always had those worst case what if scenarios. And if in what you just shared, it brings me back to that time where it was like, do I want to keep having these same thoughts over and over again? There has to be another way. And the other way was choosing possibility instead of those limiting thoughts. So Sharon, if there's a woman right now listening who feels stuck or restless, but she can't figure out why, What's a loving, gentle first step she can take to begin uncovering what those feelings are and realigning with her truth?
Yeah, I love that question. So, it's really that moment is to tune in, go into stillness, slow down, and allow yourself to be present to what is. So we are afraid of our emotions, and so we suppress them. And emotions can't hurt you. They may not feel good, but they can't hurt you, right? So but what hurts you is resisting them, pushing them away. So I use the term emotional sovereignty because we need to learn to realize that we're not our emotions, right? It's just an energy. You think of energy and motion, you've probably heard that before. It's an energy that's just moving through us, and it's full of data, a ton of insights that are there for you. And so if you feel something, you can, what are my thoughts that are causing this feeling? Get really compassionate with yourself and curious with yourself. Those two things will allow it to open up. The compassion helps you get out of self-judgment. Oh, I can't be sad. Oh, I can't be angry. That's not very spiritual. That's not very kind, right? Just allow yourself to be with that emotion. And if you allow it to move through you, most likely it will only last 90 seconds. But you can set your timer for 15 minutes and allow yourself to process it. I mean, especially if it has something, if there's an emotion that has a lot of momentum about it, meaning you've thought something over and over and over and over and over again. And so it's really ingrained in your neural pathways, right? And how to react to something. But if you allow yourself to process it and, go through the emotion, it moves out of your system. Does that make sense? So, yeah, I would, and if there's not a lot of momentum around it, the other thing you can do is focus on what you want as opposed to focus on what's happening. Maybe you feel some energy that feels angry. Somebody else is angry with you, right? And instead of getting triggered and whatever, and there's not a lot of momentum about it, right? You don't have this big contrast normally with this person. You can just simply focus on what you want. Oh, I want to create this loving relationship. So I'm going to respond with kindness and compassion. Still, obviously keep yourself in integrity and loving yourself, but what is it I'm trying to create here? As opposed to reacting and just responding to, respond to what you want to create, as opposed to reacting to this energy that is external to you. That is emotional sovereignty.
That really speaks to me because I think all of us can relate to a time where we reacted from a lower self, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of responded from the highest version of who we are. So I love what you said about taking that pause and responding from the place of what do you want to create in this situation instead of reacting from the moment of the energy that someone's giving us. We get to control our response and reactions. That was the most empowering, I think, spiritual lesson that I got in 1991 when I had my experience was I have the choice to respond to react. We're not a victim to that moment. It's a choice we're making. We're either making it from a lack of awareness or maybe like we haven't done the work to know that that is a reaction from your lower self. But I love how you described it. I love that strategy of putting some time aside to just feel the emotion. So one of the other things, Sharon, in your work, you talk about that purpose, our purpose, is not actually a role we play. And I'm really curious on the rest of this because there's a saying I've always said, and I think we're in alignment on this. So you say purpose is not a role, but a frequency. And can you explain what that means and how it shifts the way we think about fulfillment in our lives?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's almost like there's different frequencies that we wanted to experience, right? And so your purpose is to allow yourself to feel that emotion and share that emotion with others. So if you begin to think about your purpose as it relates to that, let's say your freedom is, your purpose. So how can you allow yourself to feel free? And how can you, and by being the embodiment of freedom, allows others to see the possibilities for themselves. That doesn't mean, that could mean anything, right? You could do any job from that knowing of that purpose. Like, what are those things that you really want to experience in your body in this lifetime?
I love that. So if I heard you right, we're not the labels. What I've always said is we're not the labels we use to exist in the world. Like I may use the phrase radio show host, publisher, mindset elevation coach, but those really aren't the truth of who I am. Those are labels I use to exist in the world to help people understand my purpose and role. Do you feel that way too? Like we are so much more than the labels that others put on us or that we have to use ourselves in the world?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most spiritual teachings teach that, we're all one, right? But in order to have an experience, we have to label things, we have to separate. And that separation is what causes any, contrast. In contrast kind of brings in fear, like, oh, I'm separate from that person, right? So it is, recognizing, yes, I'm using these labels, but I'm more than that. And these are the things that I wanted to experience. These are the things that I'm about. This is how I share my love with the world. What is that love you're sharing with the world? That point that is uniquely you, that's more than your labels. When you start to define your purpose in that is when, life becomes fun and enjoying, and you have real prosperity because you're getting to share who you are, and all that's free. But you recognize how abundant you are, and that just calls in more abundance.
I love that. And one of the things too is like when I was, I guess, healing, transforming, evolving, whatever the word is, when I got on the path in the early 90s, is I focused on how I wanted people to feel around me because I had become so disconnected from myself. And I remember thinking, if I disappear tomorrow, what would they say? Was she loving? Was she kind? Was she generous? So I started focusing on just be love, right? Just be present, just be supportive, like all those things that I think we all yearn for in our life. I decided instead of waiting for me to receive them, I would become that. So then what was funny is as I focused on becoming it so I could give it to others, what happened? It all came back to me 100-fold.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about, right? Like beyond the role, it's the essence of who we are.
Yeah, I love that.
As a soul.
I love that. I give that, that was one of the things I told my daughters, right? When they went off to college, like, if you feel like you don't belong, or you feel like, you feel like you're alone when you're in a new spot, right? You don't feel like you don't belong. How can you make someone else feel like you belong? Like they
Yes,
belong?
exactly. Oh, I love that. What a great lesson, especially for college. That's a, tumultuous time.
Yeah.
Sharon, we're going to take our final break. When we come back. I want to dive in a little deeper, my friend.
Great.
I invite everyone, please visit Sharon at SharonSeaberg.com. Learn about her offerings. She has so many yummy offerings there, free gifts, content. You can learn more about working with her at SharonSeaberg.com. We'll be right back.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Times Radio. I.O.M.F.M.
There is magic within you and all around you. Sha Blackburn, internationally recognized psychic, shamanic healer, and teacher, known as the Loon Witch, has been empowering individuals to transform their lives using magical principles and her intuitive gifts since 1997. Sha is a high priestess in the Order of Blended Wisdom Coven, ordained minister, Reiki master teacher, certified neuro-linguistic practitioner, and QHHT practitioner, certified in shamanic healing from the Foundation of Shamanic Studies. For over 20 years, she's been a popular media guest, providing wisdom and live intuitive readings. Sha offers an empowering variety of in-person and virtual workshops on the topics of divination, healing, metaphysics, and more. Clients around the world turn to her for tarot and rune readings and to her intuitive wisdom for guidance and clarity. Ready to tap into your magic? Visit loonwitch.com.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Seaberg, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Seaberg, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Free your mind with Times Radio. I.O.M.F.M.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. With me today is Neuro-Transformational Coach and Feminine Power Facilitator, Sharon Seaberg. So Sharon, because I know your work personally, and I know you bring together tools like Gene Keys, which I was blown away with, and human design in your work. So how do you use those modalities to help women reconnect with their purpose in this grounded, practical way?
Thank you for that question. I love that. Yeah, I love those tools because it helps us really understand who we are. It's almost like our new operating system, as well as what are those frequencies that we wanted to experience, right? And what is our purpose, or life's work? All those things are really clearly outlined, and it gives you so much insight. And I love reflecting that back and seeing that in women when they really know who they are. And it's one of the things I wanted to say was we're taught to, one of the things we're taught is get rid of our ego, right? Become kind, be really kind and just focus on everyone else. Well, that is, as women, we already do that. We already are nurturing by our own nature, right? And so really what we need is self-empowerment. And really when we start to know who we are and what we want and what we're creating in this world, and what our real power is, which is love, that is when we begin to come alive and create, as opposed to just responding to what's happening in the world. And so I love those tools because there's so much in there. I use them to help clients create their branding for if they're an entrepreneur, and understand what are the path to success in what they wanted to create if they're an entrepreneur, or if they're women in corporate. I also use it to help them understand what is their brand, how they're showing up at work, how are they, what are their values, all of those deeper level things that are operating all the time, but we just aren't consciously aware of them. They're not when we make them front and center in how we're creating our life, that is when it seems fun and easy, right?
It does. I think life flows. In fact, I just wrote a post for a project I'm working on, but I said, I used to push my way through life. And as you said, I was always reacting instead of responding and creating, right? And that's what I feel like your work is about. And when you work with those tools like Gene Keys and human design, it's like help them get down to the truth of who they are so they can start, I don't know, living and creating from their truth and not from those masks and identity that they think is their truth. Because I've experienced your Gene Keys offering, and remember I was like, what? Ooh, it was so validating, right? So I want to invite anyone too, is if you go to Sharon's website at SharonSeaberg.com, up at the top there's a button that says connect. She offers a free 30-minute consultation. I invite you to take advantage of it. Excuse me.
Thank you. Yeah, I would love, I get so much joy out of helping people see who they are. And I'd love to invite anyone into having that experience. So thank you for bringing that in.
Well, I just want women to have a way to at least find out more about how you can support and serve them. Because the one thing that I know from my journey is we're not meant to walk the path alone. That's why I create all my communities. I truly believe that when we open ourselves to receive from a guide who has already walked the journey ahead of us, that's one of the most sacred gifts we can give ourselves. Right. So again, SharonSeaberg.com, go to the connect link up in her nav bar and, take advantage of the complimentary call, learn more and see where it unfolds. So in our last few minutes, I want to talk about just about the pressure women are under, right? Be a great mother, wife, friend, have a great career and a great physique. Hold it all together, ladies. But really, I'm all about the feminine. I still get stuff done, but I'm about flow, ease, grace, love, acceptance. How do you help your clients soften into being rather than doing?
Yeah, I love that question so much. And you are such a great example. The way you live your life, I love it. Yeah, I will say I used to wear busyness as a badge of honor. I'm sure you've heard people say that, but I literally was like, oh yeah, I'm so busy. I don't have time. I'm so busy. And we're taught to measure our worth based on how much we can get done, plus how much we make or what our title is, all that kind of stuff, but also how much we can get done. And that is just not the truth of us. When we begin to come from a place of presence and what is here in the moment for us to do, we always know the next perfect step. It's always available to you. And so that is just, we're not necessarily meant to know how to do everything, because what fun that wouldn't be any fun if we already knew exactly what to do, right? It's about being present to what's in the moment and what's almost like the choiceless next step to take. And when you come from that place, it's just fun and easy and flow instead of we always have this other side of our brain that's going to bring in the logical, like what ifs and all these other scenarios, but you can still hold it with love and compassion and allow. Does this step feel expansive, or does it feel like, I have to do this? If it feels like I have to do this, it's probably not something that has to be done right now. Maybe it's not the right time. Your body, your intuition is always telling you, and so your intuition, if you allow it to be just that simple, does this feel a little bit better, or do I feel contrasted, or like constricted in this next step? Just allowing yourself to follow that guidance.
I love that. I use joy. Like joy is my I guess my GPS navigating system. If it brings me joy, then I know I'm in alignment with the truth of who I am. And that could be something like working on web page copy, or it could be playing with my granddaughter. It's about, as I'm writing this website copy, is my energy in the essence of joy? Because then I know I'm going to be in the highest vibration of myself. So I that being and doing, when I'm doing and I'm not in alignment with the truth of who I am, it feels constricted, like you said. But when I can tap into that essence of joy, I don't know, I just think it's become my guidance system. And I know everybody's saying, well, of course, because your last name is Joy. But I'll gotta tell you, there was decades that I couldn't even embrace that name, right? Because I felt the furthest away from joy. So I think maybe that's why it's become my navigation system. Does that speak to you too, Sharon?
Absolutely. Yeah, and it can't, I hesitate to use, I love that. And, you're such an embodied, joyful person. But there's some people that are like, if they're depressed or something like that, it may not be joy, that it may just be some relief. Like, what is it? Does it feel a little bit better to just take care of this? Or does it feel a little better to like not do it right now? Maybe all the information hasn't downloaded to you, right? And to make it fun and joyful. And then recognize too is sometimes you could be in judgment of yourself. Something's not fun because you're judging, this isn't good enough, I'm not doing it right, or you know what I mean?
Yes, I know what you mean, my friend.
You get out of the judgment and just, hey, I'm just going to do this for fun. That, like almost childlike, right? Innocence. What's here for this?
And that's such a more loving way to navigate life for ourselves, right? Is just loving self-compassion. And, I want to invite everyone, as I just noticed the time, please visit Sharon at SharonSeaberg.com. Check out her offerings, her free gift. Go to that connect button in the nav bar and schedule a complimentary 30-minute call. Talk about where you are, how she can help you with the soul alignment formula and her offerings. And Sharon, thank you for being such a bright light in the world and in my life. I always love sharing your wisdom, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's so fun to talk to you. Always is.
Well, thank you. Until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness. Blessings, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. inspired conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.